next speaker, even, another advanced speaker, hails from across the bay there in County Clare. Now, he told me many years ago he went to a Cork Toastmasters meeting under the pretext of a blind date, and he never recovered from it. I didn't go any further with that one, I left it at that. He has completed 3 times internationally. He's been a Toastmaster for 35 years. And he would describe himself as a slow learner. Again, advanced. The 3 objectives. The purpose of this speech is for the master to give the power of reflection on his communication skill set, what the skill set taught him about himself, and thirdly, how these skills still apply today, even in a changed environment. The time for this speech is 10 to 12 minutes. It will be evaluated by Siobhan Keenan with a speech entitled The World of Gestures. Would you please welcome James Linnane.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially our guests, I am fully convinced that despite all Toastmasters have written in the last 100 years since their inception, that to generate impact with the spoken word, and let's be honest, that's our gig, generating impact with the spoken word. I am convinced it requires 4 crucial disciplines, or 4 major objectives, if you like. We in the trade, we call them the 4 biggies. Number 1 is very simple: the words, the building blocks, and how we use them. Far be it from me to suggest to anybody in this august group to suggest what words to use for their speech and how to use them. Number 2, vocal variety / pause. And it is this particular strategy, vocal variety / pause, that confers the real meaning and understanding and sensitivity onto the written page. I am indebted to my president, who enlightened us some time ago that a sentence containing as little as 7 words can have 5 crucially different meanings depending on how we deploy vocal variety. Number 3, sincerity / pause. Sincerity is the holy grail of public speaking. If we can inculcate sincerity and passion into our speech, we have arrived. All the great speeches of history have sincerity and passion at their core. Sincerity in a speech has been defined as that hidden force that grabs you by the throat and strikes at you from within. I love that. And fourthly, gestures. And it is the world of gestures. It is gestures that fascinate me from a public speaking point of view. And too often I fear that we only give token acknowledgement to the business of lectures, of gestures, and without actually fully realising the potential impact that a good gesture can confer onto what might be normally a very average speech. And tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about, gestures. The trouble with gestures, of course, is that they are never neutral. By that I mean that every gesture is either an aid to the message of the speech or it is a distraction. No middle ground with gestures. It's either good or they are bad. It begs the question, though, what is a gesture? Quite simply, a gesture is every conceivable movement we make up here as part of our endeavour. I have a distinct recollection of, in former years, our amateur dramatics coach reminding us that during a performance we should not move at all unless it is for a reason. And that holds true to us as speakers. And I make no apology for using the word performance. This is our Carnegie Hall. This is our Metropolitan Opera House. This is our space. And we should milk it for all it is worth. The manual suggests that gestures should be expansive. The whole world is your oyster. I can take that. And they suggest that gestures should be energetic. I can take that also, provided it doesn't extend to some young fellow up here hopping around like a madman, which I believe to be a distraction. I also feel, in my years of experience, that we don't give enough credence to facial gestures and facial animation, because facial gestures have the power to generate significant meaning. The smile, the frown, the pursed lips, the raised eyebrow, and of course, eye contact. Eye contact is a gesture. Frederick Douglass, 19th century black American, born into slavery, but somehow survived to become one of the great speakers of his age, or any age. He befriended Daniel O'Connell and came to Ireland, and both spoke together in public to great acclaim. But Frederick Douglass had no gestures but one: eye contact. Frederick Douglass was gifted with the possession of an enormously pair of eyes. He had huge eyes, and he used them to great effect. You did not dare nod off in a room where Frederick Douglass was speaking, so riveting was his eye contact. We should also be careful to make sure that our gestures match the sentiment of the dialogue. For instance, if I were to say, the mother-in-law died last year, but she left me a small fortune in her will. But how I miss the passing of that great lady. Does that look like I'm seriously mourning my mother-in-law? Don't think so. The trouble is, when gestures contradict the dialogue, the audience always believe the gestures. And in an odd way, it is this anomaly, to my mind, that reinforces the inherent power of gestures. Because no matter how eloquent the dialogue is, if it contradicts the message of the speech, if both contradict one another, the audience will always believe the gesture. Consider then how good our speech could be if for some reason we were able to use a complementary gesture to our dialogue. Most fascinating, of course, though, to my mind, is the timing of the gesture. Now, the manual frequently refers to the well-timed gesture, but they're never explaining, to my mind at least, what a well-timed gesture is. We can take it as read that the well-timed gesture means that the gesture must precede the relevant phrase. Gesture first, relevant phrase afterwards. A young fella came into our office the other day wearing an earring. I don't think we should say he came into our office the other day wearing an earring. In other words, the gesture first, the relevant dialogue afterwards. And the trouble is, when the gesture follows the dialogue, it can sometimes make the speaker decidedly foolish. A figure of fun, even. That's what happened to Arthur Scargill. Most of you are too young to remember him, the leader of the coal miners' union, had many a spat with Margaret Thatcher. Brilliant man, great speaker, could not time the gestures. For my sins, I sometimes give public speaking lessons to students, and during one such session, a young fellow from the back of the class, totally confused, put up his hand. Which comes first against her, he says, is it the word or the action? Now, I happen to know that this young fellow's mum was in the choir. Actually, she conducted the choir. So I teased him a little bit, and I said, Johnny, when your mum is conducting the choir, does she set the ball rolling, or do they start singing first? Oh, no, sir, he says. She starts them off with a small stick, he says. She's the boss. Well, now, Johnny, gestures are exactly the same. The gesture, the baton first, and then the music and the dialogue afterwards. The fact is that musical conduction is probably the most perfect gesture we will ever encounter. And I say that for a number of reasons. Firstly, a lot of energy is exerted. It is estimated that a conductor conducting one of the major symphonies during the course of the conduction is capable of losing 1.5 pounds in weight, as much as a jockey in the Grand National. Racing again? Touche. They never look at their notes, the good ones at least. Eye contact is established with every corner of the orchestra. Their facial expressions can be dynamic and dramatic. But most significantly, the timing is always brilliant, with the baton always ahead of the music. Unless, of course, you're Jacqueline Dupré. Jacqueline Dupré, one of the most gifted cellists of our age, who died tragically young. And there's a celebrated recording of her doing her favourite piece, the Elgar Cello Concerto, with the London Philharmonic being conducted by none other than Daniel Barenboim, who happened to be her husband, except that she wasn't taking any dictation. There she was, her eyes closed, in a trance, literally wrapped around the cello, and she belting out music from the very soul. Music that would make her heart ache. Few noticed in the audience that she wasn't following strict tempo a la her husband, but nobody gave a damn. Everybody was transfixed with the passion and sincerity of the performance. But hold on, James. You was not supposed to be talking about gestures, and here you are meandering into a different one of the disciplines, sincerity, passion. And so what? The fact is that sincerity through passion, as part of a performance, trumps everything else. In the audience, it might disturb us, it might make us weep, but deep down, we love it. But time moves on. Gesture before the dialogue. And there's going to be no further discussion about sincerity and passion. Well, at least not tonight, Josephine, but maybe sometime in the future. Who knows?